Welcome to Building My Legacy podcast. This podcast is designed for leaders and entrepreneurs who want to leave a legacy and will provide strategies that focus upon key elements for legacy creation, determining your desired impact and its benefit, increasing your legacy's reach by engaging key stakeholders, planning, prioritizing, and executing. Here's your host, Dr. Lois Sonstegard.
Welcome, everybody, to today's Building My Legacy podcast. I have with me Sahar. Is it Sahar or Suhar? Sahar Habib. And she is a leadership educator and a coach, executive coach. She has gotten involved in some very interesting kinds of coaching called bite-sized coaching. So I thought that it would be a fascinating thing for us to learn more about. So, Sahar, tell us more about your background and how you got to where you are. And then let's spend time diving into what is bite-sized coaching.
Of course. So firstly, thank you so much for having me on your podcast today, Lois. I really appreciate it. And I'm excited to talk about bite-sized coaching. I actually started this idea off, my background, as we spoke about briefly, was actually being a hairstylist, and left school at 16, started up my own business, and working within that industry made me realize that it wasn't really whetting my appetite. I wasn't able to manage people the way I wanted to. I wasn't able to lead and develop people the way I wanted to because I had subcontractors. So it was a very lonely business, and I needed to come out and find a new passion, or find my actual passion. And through a long journey in different industries, various different roles, I finally came into the world of finance, where I realized my true passion was leadership and being able to lead people to a greater cause, a common cause together. And through that journey, I decided to start up my own business again. And that was in executive coaching, but I wanted to do it a little bit differently. And so I built Coach Wilson, which is a online learning platform. And within that platform, you're able to have bite-sized coaching that we just mentioned, which is providing you with short-term solutions. And we'll go a little bit further into that in a moment. And then we also have our training programs for long-term solutions. So there's a variety of the two there. And really how that started was when I was working with my old line manager in finance, Michael Wilson, who, appropriately I named my business after, I would sometimes face various different challenges that I needed help with in that very moment. And it wasn't really an appropriate conversation necessarily for our one-to-one catch-ups or our performance catch-ups. It'd just be very much in that moment. I need your support. I need you to give me a boost of confidence or a quick boost of knowledge and skill, because one-to-ones can be very militant. They're very structured, and I just wanted to have an ad hoc conversation. And that was a really great learning for me. It was the first time that a line manager actually allowed me to pick up the phone and contact them to say, I have this challenge, I need your help. This is how I think I need to overcome it, but I'm not sure. And he would guide me through that in 5 to 10 minutes. So it would be barely any time out of either of our days. And it would help me overcome whatever challenge I was facing in that moment. And I thought that was so impactful to me. It just gave me clarity and direction at a time that I really needed it. And the solutions were so practical. Again, in that moment that I needed them, that I felt like that's something I want to share with the rest of the world. Not a lot of people have that privilege of having a line manager that's got the ability and time to take away, to give you that bite-sized quick fix in whatever challenge you might be in. So that's how I ended up here at Coach Wilson through that experience.
So tell us more about your Coach Wilson and the bite-sized coaching, because, when people get involved in coaching, oftentimes they think of it as this period of time that they have to commit to. And because behavior change does take time, there are ways of accelerating that process, but certainly traditionally you look at it, there's a time element involved. So how do you do bite-sized coaching?
Of course. One of the actually interesting points the best. It brings you the opportunity to be able to quickly find a solution. So how do I explain it in the better so I don't take too much time? Sometimes we basically just need a quick fix. It could be just a boost of confidence. It could be a new method of delivery. You might have a difficult conversation coming up. You might have a presentation on the way. And you just want to be able to pull out a quick note almost to tell you how to do it without necessarily telling you how to do it. So it's getting you to think about it. But you don't have to be in a conversation for an hour. It can be a very quick solution. It's giving you the opportunity to continue to learn. So bite-sized coaching gives you that opportunity. Now, we do it on demand at Coach Wilson. So it's a little bit different to if I was to just pick up the phone to my coach and be able to have, or mentor, and be able to have that conversation. So how the on-demand bite-sized coaching works is we'll have a variety of different topics that we find are challenging in the leadership world. And some of them come to us through our clientele where we've been out for consultancy purposes or on a one-to-one coaching basis. And so we have a library of different topics, so communications, project management, leading difficult people, difficult times as well, So there's different topics there where you can just click onto it and you watch a 5-10 minute video, very similar to a TED talk, but it becomes less about a story and more about a solution. And how do you find a solution towards that challenge? So they are very, very quick solutions. They're fast, they're actionable, and they're very thought-provoking. It doesn't necessarily give you the answer, but it supports you in guiding you to find the solution that you need as well. So it helps you think your way to the solution that you need.
So have you developed all this material yourself, or how have you gone about putting all of this together? It's amazing.
Well, I don't believe that it would be very effective if I was the only person delivering the bite-sized coaching, because I think, sometimes we've got to be realistic. A method that works for me, a solution that works for me might not necessarily work for everyone. And we all have different styles of leadership, different personalities. I'm an extrovert, and somebody who's probably a bit more of an introvert would not be as comfortable necessarily with my methods. So I've brought together a group of different coaches who I've connected with through various different platforms, Instagram, LinkedIn, through, my business itself. And they're supporting and delivering those content so that we can continue to upload towards the library and give the audience a variety of different content.
That's brilliant. Absolutely brilliant, especially because it's a collaborative effort, right? And I think many times we don't look at how to grow business through collaboration. So my hat goes off to you. That's an unbelievably great approach.
Thank you. Yeah. I think collaboration is a great piece. Again, it's something that I want to be used in hand with one-to-one coaching. So I don't want to, exclude any executive coaches that are still working in that area of executive coaching, where they're delivering their one-to-one sessions, they're delivering their long-term training programs, because bite-sized coaching is something that should be used alongside of it. Just like with any other area in our lives where we look to improve, when we, for instance, if we're looking at a physical improvement, we go to the gym, but alongside of it, we have a diet. And that's how I view bite-sized coaching. Alongside of your long-term one-to-one support, you want to have the bite-sized coaching to help enhance your skills and knowledge, whereas your one-to-one support will continue to develop it transfer new knowledge and new skills to your own abilities. And I think that's where they need to go hand in hand. So that collaboration piece, I think, really mirrors sort of that value and that view of wanting to work together as opposed to taking it away from one-to-one coaching.
So tell me, with your clients, your corporate clients, do they purchase like a membership to access this, or how does that work for your corporate clients?
So at the moment, the website's actually been redone and relaunched. So prior to this, the website hasn't been up, and I've been delivering it in a face-to-face basis and on a one-to-one basis. So my clients are all either universities or corporate clients. And what will happen is once the website's relaunched, at the moment, I'm actually providing the bite-size service for free because I want to build awareness around the impact on it. The training programs will be paid for training, just like any other training, but eventually it will become a subscription basis. So the corporate clients will be able to have a subscription for their business, and their people are going to be able to use that platform, which is great because the reality is that for companies to be able to provide their leadership teams or their talent pools ongoing training and ongoing support, it's quite timely, costly. You've got to use up resources, and that's where Coach Wilson comes in to bridge that gap. And so eventually it will become a subscription service, but at the moment I want it to be available for everyone to use so they can familiarize with this new method of delivery.
So how do companies know about you and what you have to offer?
So I've actually had a very, very how do I say it? I don't say lucky. I've been very blessed to have a very wide network of businesses through my previous role within finance. And luckily, a lot of it has been through word of mouth. And I have a lot of corporate clients who I used to work with when I was in finance, and again, universities within the London area and the UK who I used to work with. So my connections have allowed me to have a word of mouth spread. And now I've moved on to Instagram. And so Instagram's allowing me to deliver that same bite-size coaching via the social media platform, and allowing the new clientele, the ones that are waiting to access the website, be able to kind of have a taster and a feel for what it's like.
Who's your ideal client, Sahar?
My ideal client, in all honesty, I don't look to sort of cater only for corporate clientele. I actually want a lot of individuals as well, because I think that when I look at myself in my early days, I wish that I had a solution that was simple and not so expensive. I didn't want to have time being taken away from me, too much money taken away from me. It was difficult. And so I want leaders and aspiring leaders to really take advantage of this. And that would be my ideal clientele. So whether that's coming through the corporate clients, or you coming off your own back and deciding that you want to develop and you want to continuously learn, I'm really looking for individuals who are striving to become authentic leaders. Those are the people that I want to see as my clients, because they're the only ones that are going to be able to take advantage and really benefit from the service that we're going to be providing.
So typically universities, that's interesting that it's corporate and universities, because generally they think a little bit differently. They approach things differently. So is it the faculty, administrative people? Is it students? Is it both?
It's students, actually, that I target mostly. And the reason being is that the model that I've created for Coach Wilson is that I've kind of taken an approach on leadership styles and built from experience, from research, from knowledge, just my own model where I have the authentic leader here in the middle. And then on the other side of the scale, I've got the old school leader. And then on this side of the scale, I've got the millennial leader. And the names are not fitting because you're not necessarily old if you're an old school leader. You're not necessarily a millennial if you're a millennial leader. But what I've noticed is this trend that a lot of young entrepreneurs tend to want to fall within that Google and Facebook category where they're all about their people. Business comes second because if you keep your people happy, business will be booming. And the reality is you need to have a balance between the two, because if you're only focusing on your people and you try to run before you can walk, what happens is you lose revenue and in turn you're losing your business. So you need to be able to come back into the middle and be able to have a balanced culture of both people focused and business focused so that you can not only retain your talent, but also retain your actual revenue and increase on your profits and be able to continue your business to a level where you can have your sleeping pods and your ping pong tables if you want to, but doing that in a way that's still going to promote a business mindset. And that's why I like targeting students, because you're kind of molding their mindset before they go out into the big bad world and become entrepreneurs through what they've learned in university and what they've learned by working as interns. They're actually learning ahead of time. These are the challenges that you're going to be facing, and these are the ways to overcome them, and here's how to balance your culture together so you can become an authentic leader.
I think that's wonderful. And the whole issue of millennials has been such a struggle for so many people for so long. And because millennials are confusing, I think, to people. And many times people don't know quite how to bring millennials into the work environment and assimilate them. And I think vice versa. They don't always know how to be assimilated either. And it's not that one is wrong and one is right, as you say, but it's the knowing of the how, right?
Exactly.
And I think one of the things that millennials bring is an idealism that you could call it naivete perhaps, but it is also it brings enthusiasm, which I think makes an organization more creative, more energetic. So it has some wonderful strengths.
Absolutely. And they both do. I think both an old school leader and a millennial leader have their strengths, but that's where you need to put those strengths together and balance them and really take the pros and the cons of each of them, right, to be able to build an authentic leader.
So what are the biggest challenges you work with as you work with leaders and companies or individuals?
For me, I think the biggest challenge is finding a company who has a support system for their leadership teams to help, rightly, I think they need to be able to transition experts into leaders as opposed to throwing them into the leadership world. And I think what happens is that I really face this challenge with a lot of the people, a lot of my clients that I work with, is that from the very top, they just assume that experts are leaders. And unfortunately, not everyone will have all of the, not necessarily attributes, because I believe that everyone can have the attributes, but they're not going to have the confidence necessarily to put it into action. And they get thrown into the deep end, and some of them end up drowning. And that's where you do end up with a leader who has great potential, but didn't receive the right support, the right, the succession planning. And so they fall on their back, and along with that goes all the talent that works with them, because they don't enjoy working for that person. And so they take that out on the company. And that is really, in the chain of things, it does come back up to the company who threw an expert into a leadership role without doing the correct transition. And that is really the biggest challenge that I see faced today in the corporate world, at the very least, which is a challenge to overcome. I would say the easiest way to overcome it is to be very brutally honest and just let them know, that you need to have a plan in place. You need to have a succession plan in place. I guess the secondary challenge that comes along with that is having that the senior leadership team accept that they've made maybe a poor decision in that, and they've missed a trick in order to be able to create better leaders. And once they finally get their head around that and they accept it, we can start to mitigate it and start to work towards a better outcome.
So corporations when they come to you because they're challenged. How? What are they looking for?
So usually it will be a challenge around succession planning. That's really where I've been promoting so far. And that's probably hence why that's the biggest area that I tend to see challenges within. But overall, I do provide a consultancy service for delivering training programs as well, and building training programs, but they're very focused around building leaders, creating leaders, and maintaining leadership knowledge and being able to build on top of that. So that's usually what I get approached for is a company who approaches me because they feel they either don't have a motivated leadership team or a motivated team overall beneath their leadership team.
So tell me, with what you've done, you've worked with both ends of the continuum. What's our future leader going to look like?
Our future leader is going to be authentic through and through. They're going to, we're going to come away from this mindset that you need to have a corporate face on, and they're going to be themselves, be relatable, be honest, trustworthy, and they're going to be able to balance business and people culture. And that's really where I believe we'll thrive. That's how I envision our future in terms of leadership. They're going to be 100% transparent and be able to balance people and business in their culture without as many challenges as we might be facing today.
What do you think could be some of our biggest mistakes that we would make in the next chapter of leadership?
I would say not moving along with the times, i.e., if we look at the pandemic, there's a lot of remote leadership working, happening right now because a lot of people are working from home. There are too many companies who had the opportunity to embrace that a lot earlier on and are now facing those challenges as almost a backlash of the pandemic. And I think there should be a wake-up call that when there is a new method or a new proposition in place to help improve work-life balance and what would previously be shunned upon, being able to balance work and life was never a good thing in the past. I think it's now time to realize that, in order to move forward, if we're going to avoid continuing to make mistakes, we need to really start embracing every change that comes with the time. So as time moves forward, we need to move along with it and not stay in the past and try and hold on dearly to what we believe is working right now, because it won't necessarily work tomorrow.
Isn't that true? We are changing at a speed that we've never known before, and unknown has a new perspective. Unknown is really unknown. Before, when we've said unknown, it meant a little different. But now it's quite unknown and quite uncertain as well. And so the tools that we've had for scanning the horizon are also different. And the challenge to leadership then is also quite different. Sahar, our time is almost up. Anything we have left out that you think is important for our audience to think about or to know?
I think just the last thing that I would like to maybe sort of put out there is that to be a great leader, you need to be a good coach. You need to be a great coach. And I think people like to believe that we're great coaches. But in order to be a great coach, you need to be coachable. So, and I said coach probably too many times in that sentence, but in all honesty, I think that's just something to take away and think about, is just, be coachable so that you can be a great coach and in turn be an amazing leader.
Sahar, this has been a lovely discussion. Thank you so much for your time and your thoughts. And I think your perspective, because you have that sense of both ends of the continuum, age continuum, And I'm hearing a lot of discussion about how can we bring these together better, more thoughtfully, more intentionally, so we produce the result that we really want to produce in the end. So thank you so much for your thoughts.
Thank you, Lois. Thank you for having me on.
And thank you all for listening to Building My Legacy podcast today. Please remember to visit our website, buildtomorrow.com, and all of our social media at buildtomorrow.com. We will have information about Sahar in our show notes, so you can get in contact with her. And if you need any help, just let us know. We'll be glad to help you. Thank you very much for listening to Building My Legacy podcast today.
You've been listening to Building My Legacy podcast with Dr. Lois Sonstagard. To book your appointment with Dr. Sonstagard, visit www.buildtomorrow.com.